Sanders' story is starting to follow a familiar and troubling pattern in the NFL. Young quarterbacks drafted into systems that never truly want them. The signs are always the same: minimal reps, no protection, vague promises of development, while others get real investment. Kevin Stefanski's approach to Sanders checks every box. And when a respected coach like John Harbaugh speaks out publicly, it confirms that this isn't speculation. It's a red flag the league can't afford to ignore. When one quarterback is protected and developed while another is exposed and neglected, it's not about skill, it's about decisions. Stefanski's decisions are defining Sanders' career before it's even had a chance to begin. That kind of systemic mishandling doesn't just hurt players, it destroys teams from the inside out. Change isn't just needed, it's necessary.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Ravens head coach John Harbaugh didn't tiptoe around the issue. He called it out, loud, direct, and with the kind of weight only a veteran head coach can carry. And the target of that blunt force truth? Kevin Stefanski. As Harbaugh said what plenty of people have been thinking but weren't bold enough to say: Shedeur Sanders is being sabotaged. And the person responsible is wearing a headset on the Browns sideline every Sunday. It's not an overreaction. It's not media hype. It's a fact backed by weeks of decisions, patterns, and a clear refusal by Stefanski to develop one of the most promising young quarterbacks in the league. This isn't a matter of differing play styles or roster fit. This is about mismanagement, plain neglect, and a coaching strategy so lopsided that it borders on malicious. When you consistently deny a young quarterback the opportunity to grow, shield another from scrutiny, and then act like both are being evaluated fairly, that's not a developmental plan. That's sabotage dressed in coach speak. Let's talk about what the Browns are actually doing. Shedeur Sanders, despite being one of the most composed and high IQ quarterbacks entering the league, hasn't been given meaningful reps. He's not working with the starters. He's not building chemistry. He's not getting a playbook designed to highlight what he does best. When he does play, it's in high-pressure situations, often behind a crumbling offensive line, without any of the stability or structure he'd need to succeed. And when it inevitably goes sideways, the silence from the coaching staff is deafening. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel, clearly Stefanski's hand-picked project, is receiving every resource you'd expect for a quarterback being groomed as the franchise's future. He gets the consistent snaps. He gets the practice time. The plays are designed for his rhythm, and the coaching staff bends over backward to protect his development from public criticism. This isn't subtle. This isn't even debatable at this point. The favoritism is undeniable, and it's having real consequences. You can't develop a quarterback by throwing him into chaotic, no-win situations and then penalizing him for not performing miracles. But that's exactly what Stefanski is doing to Sanders. And if that sounds familiar, it's because this isn't the first time a coaching staff has failed a young QB by refusing to create the right environment. What's different here is the blatant nature of it. There's no plausible deniability left. The Browns are failing Sanders in ways that go beyond typical growing pains. This is systemic, calculated, and damaging. What makes this worse is the psychological impact. Quarterbacks thrive on rhythm, repetition, trust, and confidence. They need to feel that their coaching staff is behind them. They need reps that mean something, and a system that allows them to settle in and grow with their team. Sanders has none of that. He's being left to sink or swim while everyone else gets a life vest. And when someone like John Harbaugh steps out and calls this sabotage, it doesn't just reflect poorly on Stefanski, it confirms what a lot of people around the league already suspected. This isn't just about one player being mishandled. It's about a franchise culture that's rotting from the inside, where coaching decisions are based more on protecting reputations than building a winning team. Let's look at the broader implications. Favoritism this obvious doesn't just hurt the quarterback room, it affects the entire team. If you're on the offensive line, how do you prepare when the game plan changes completely depending on which quarterback is under center? If you're a receiver, how do you build timing when your reps are always with the coach's favorite? And if you're a rookie watching this unfold, what lesson are you learning? That merit doesn't matter? That your opportunity depends on politics, not performance? This type of environment creates resentment. It fractures trust. It breaks locker rooms before the season even ends. The Browns aren't just mishandling a talented quarterback, they're sabotaging their own future. Shedeur Sanders didn't come into this league needing a miracle. He came ready to learn, lead, and compete. But the Browns never gave him a chance. They gave him a sideline view and a sinking system, and then had the nerve to question whether he's progressing. What's unfolding here isn't just a coaching failure, it's a leadership collapse. Stefanski isn't protecting Sanders. He's not even neutral. He's actively making choices that undermine Sanders' development while pouring all resources into Gabriel. And here's the kicker, Gabriel isn't lighting it up. He's getting all the reps and all the support, but his performance doesn't justify this level of commitment, especially not when there's another quarterback on the roster with just as much upside who's being iced out. The contrast is painful. It's obvious. And it tells you exactly what Stefanski values, and it's not development, it's control. He's coaching to preserve a decision, not to win. He's coaching to prove himself right, not to make the best choices for the team. And that's the most dangerous type of coach, because when things go wrong, they don't adapt. They dig in. They double down. They keep pushing their narrative until it collapses under its own weight. That collapse is coming. Because what Stefanski is doing isn't just bad optics, it's unsustainable. You can't run a franchise this way and expect long-term success. You can't bury talent, dodge accountability, and cling to one narrative without the team feeling the effects. And you can't treat quarterbacks like chess pieces and expect them to trust you. Sanders deserves better. He deserves reps. He deserves a real chance to build chemistry, work with his offense, and operate within a system designed to highlight his strengths. He deserves protection, not just from the defense, but from a coaching staff that clearly doesn't have his best interests in mind. This doesn't need to end in disaster. But if the Browns stay on this path, it absolutely will. Stefanski has shown what kind of coach he is. The Browns now have to decide what kind of organization they want to be. Do they want to develop talent? Build trust? Invest in players fairly? Or do they want to continue letting fear and favoritism drive the bus off a cliff? The answer is overdue. And so is the accountability. Let us know what you think. Has Sanders been intentionally held back, or is this just a coaching failure spiraling out of control? Drop your take in the comments, like this video if you're tired of seeing young talent squandered, share it with someone who's been asking what's really going on in Cleveland, and hit subscribe if you want more no-fluff breakdowns of the NFL's biggest disasters as they unfold. At this point, we're not even talking about football decisions anymore. We're talking about character. We're talking about accountability. And we're talking about how a young quarterback, who came into the league with composure, vision, and all the traits teams spend years searching for, is being not because of his play but because of a system too afraid to embrace him. Shedeur Sanders didn't stumble into this situation. He earned his spot. He came into the Browns facility with the resume, the work ethic, the football IQ, and the leadership intangibles to be a foundational piece. But rather than being given the tools to grow, he's been placed behind glass, looked at, talked about, and ultimately ignored. And Kevin Stefanski? He's been the architect of that neglect. What started as quiet favoritism has now evolved into public dysfunction. There's no developmental ambiguity here. It's not that both quarterbacks are being slowly developed with different timelines. It's that one is being actively groomed, and the other is being actively stalled. That's not speculation. It's what's playing out every single week. Look at the reps. Gabriel gets them. He runs with the ones. He gets the live game experience that builds rhythm and confidence. He's thrown into advantageous packages with adjusted protections and flexible play designs. Even when he underperforms, the response is patience, support, and protection from blame. Now contrast that with Sanders. He's dropped into games when the situation is crumbling. No rhythm. No chemistry. No game plan built around his strengths. He's expected to fix broken drives and overcome a lack of protection, often in high-pressure moments where failure is almost inevitable. And when things go wrong, instead of fixing the structure around him, the conversation shifts to whether he is the problem. It's dishonest. It's deflating. And it's deliberate. Sanders isn't struggling because he lacks ability. He's struggling because he's operating inside a framework designed to expose him, not develop him. That's the difference between tough love and tactical neglect. One builds players. The other buries them. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If John Harbaugh hadn't said anything, this would still be flying under the radar. Think about that. It took another head coach to finally shine a light on what's been happening in Cleveland for weeks. That's how normalized the dysfunction has become. The media tiptoed around it. The Browns organization ignored it. And Stefanski? He's been allowed to operate without real scrutiny, until now. Because now it's out there. Now everyone sees it. Harbaugh's criticism wasn't some off-the-cuff remark. It was a calculated statement from someone who understands what real development looks like. He's watched quarterbacks rise and fall in this league. He's built them, protected them. And when he looked at what was happening to Sanders, he called it what it was: sabotage. And honestly, that's the only word that fits anymore. Sabotage isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like silence, like inaction, like giving one player all the tools to succeed and pretending the other should earn those tools through adversity. But adversity, when misused, isn't growth, it's damage. And the damage being done to Shedeur Sanders right now? It's real. It's measurable. And it could be permanent. Quarterbacks don't just develop physically, they develop mentally. They need confidence, repetition, trust from the people calling the plays. When that trust is absent, every mistake feels like a referendum. Every throw becomes loaded with pressure. And eventually, the player stops playing to win, they play not to lose. And that mindset? It kills growth. That's the environment Sanders is stuck in. He doesn't need to be coddled. He doesn't need to be handed the keys. But he deserves a fair chance. A real plan. A coach who sees him as more than a contingency. And right now, Kevin Stefanski is not that coach. And look, we're not saying Gabriel doesn't deserve to develop too. But it's about balance, equity, opportunity. If one quarterback gets to develop through mistakes, the other should too. That's what accountability looks like. That's what a healthy system looks like. Kid, this is survival mode coaching. Stefanski is coaching like someone more concerned about optics than outcomes. More concerned about protecting his reputation than protecting his players. And that's why this situation has spiraled into dysfunction. Because when a coach starts choosing favorites over fairness, the entire team feels it. And yes, that includes the locker room. You think the players don't notice? You think the offensive line doesn't know which quarterback gets the better prep during the week? You think the receivers don't feel the shift in urgency when Sanders is under center versus Gabriel? They see it. They feel it. And eventually they stop buying in. That's how locker rooms collapse. Not from one bad game, but from sustained, visible favoritism that undercuts the entire idea of merit-based opportunity. And once that trust is gone, you can't get it back with a press conference quote. And now the Browns find themselves at a crossroads. They can keep pretending this is some slow-burn development plan. They can keep trotting out Stefanski's vague answers and hoping the media moves on. Or they can do what needs to be done. Admit this system is broken, and change it. That starts with accountability. With acknowledging that Kevin Stefanski has not only failed to develop Sanders but has actively worked against him through neglect, bad game planning, and a refusal to treat him with the same level of investment as Gabriel. That accountability starts with a decision. Either fire Stefanski now and salvage what's left of Sanders' rookie season, or leave him in place and continue watching a promising career get derailed in real time. Because this situation won't fix itself. And Sanders? He deserves more than what he's been given. He deserves a coaching staff that believes in him enough to give him a real shot, not a political safety net. He deserves protection. He deserves structure. He deserves a system that actually wants him to succeed. And if the Browns can't provide that, then they don't deserve him. There's a difference between a coaching mistake and a coaching philosophy. A mistake is forgetting to challenge a play. A mistake is blowing a timeout. But what's happening in Cleveland? That's not a mistake. That's a mindset, a culture, a top-down approach that punishes potential and rewards alignment. And Shedeur Sanders? He's trapped in the middle of it. Kevin Stefanski isn't just failing to develop Sanders, he's refusing to. Over and over again, through every press conference and depth chart, every broken play and every game rep denied, Stefanski is sending the same message loud and clear. Sanders is not our guy. And that's where it all unravels. Because when you bring in a quarterback with legitimate upside, a high floor, and a higher ceiling, and then you give him zero runway to develop, what are you even doing? You're not building a team. You're protecting a narrative. And that narrative? It's built around Dillon Gabriel. Let's call it out. Gabriel is being handed every possible chance to succeed. Every resource. Every adjustment. The offense is being sculpted to him in real time, even when the results don't always justify the investment. Meanwhile, Sanders is asked to perform in chaos, without rhythm, without protection, without reps. If that's not favoritism, what is it? Because this isn't about one quarterback being better than the other. It's about one being given a chance and the other being set up to fail. Gabriel is allowed to grow. Sanders is expected to overcome. And when he doesn't, the staff shrugs like that proves something. It does prove something, but not about Sanders. It proves that the Browns coaching staff is more interested in being right than being successful. Let's break it down even further. Development isn't just a buzzword. It's not something you say in a mic to stall for time. Development requires structure. You give your young quarterbacks consistent reps. You build the offense around their strengths. You make adjustments to protect their confidence. You coach them. But for Sanders, development has been reduced to a slogan with no substance. A marketing line. A way to explain away the fact that he's not playing meaningful minutes while another rookie is being fast-tracked to the top of the depth chart. And when someone like John Harbaugh calls that out publicly, that's not just an opinion, that's a warning shot. Harbaugh didn't say what he said to stir drama. He said it because, from the outside looking in, this situation isn't hard to figure out. You've got one young quarterback being nurtured and another one being wasted. And if the Browns can't see it, everyone else can. Here's where this gets even worse. The longer the Browns wait to course correct, the harder it becomes to salvage Sanders' development. Quarterbacks don't just need talent. They need time. They need trust. They need continuity with the same receivers, the same protection, the same playbook. You can't build chemistry in garbage time. You can't build trust in 2-minute drills with a playbook that doesn't fit your skill set. And you definitely can't build confidence when your own coaching staff won't even stand behind you publicly. That mental toll? It adds up. Fast. Because every time Sanders steps on the field with a broken scheme, every time he takes a hit because the protection didn't shift, every time he watches Gabriel get another clean series, it chips away at that belief, that fire, that composure. You can only ask a player to stay ready for so long before they start to wonder what they're staying ready for. And if you think this doesn't impact the locker room, you're not paying attention. The players see it. The linemen see who's getting the real reps. The receivers know who's in sync with the playbook. The defensive side knows who's getting protected by the coaching staff. That double standard? It doesn't go unnoticed. That's how leadership trust starts to erode. Quietly. Slowly. But once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. You want to talk about building a winning culture? It starts with fairness. With consistency. With making sure every player in the building knows that if they put in the work, they'll get the chance to earn their spot. Right now, that culture doesn't exist in Cleveland. And it hasn't for a while. Because when a coaching staff refuses to even pretend they're interested in developing a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, it tells you everything you need to know about what kind of program they're running. It's not about growth. It's about control. And Stefanski is clinging to that control at the expense of a player's future. That's the part that stings the most. Because this didn't have to happen. Sanders didn't need to be a starter right away. He didn't need to be handed the offense in week 1. All he needed was intentional development. A real plan. A real structure. Something to grow in. Someone to believe in him. Instead, he got sabotage. And now, the Browns are staring down a reality where, unless something changes fast, they're going to lose one of the most promising young quarterbacks in the league. Not because he couldn't cut it, but because they never actually let him try. The fix here isn't complicated. It starts with accountability. Stefanski needs to go. Full stop. You can't have a head coach who actively undermines player development to protect his own choices. You can't have a coach who builds around one player while ignoring the other, and then pretends both are being treated fairly. That's not leadership. That's cowardice. Fire Stefanski. Bring in someone who sees talent and wants to build around it. Bring in a coach who believes in growing players, not managing narratives. Someone who understands that quarterbacks are investments, not PR liabilities. Then rebuild the environment. Give Sanders reps. Real ones. Let him get chemistry with the ones. Tailor the playbook. Adjust the protections. Make it clear that he's part of the future. Because if the Browns don't do it soon, it'll be too late. Quarterbacks don't wait forever. Confidence doesn't rebuild overnight. And the NFL? It doesn't pause for politics. Shedeur Sanders deserves more than this. He deserves to be in a system that values him, not a coaching regime that treats him like a problem to manage. And if the Browns can't give him that, then he deserves to find it somewhere else. There's a moment in every football story where the team has to decide who it really is. Not who it markets itself to be. Not who it claims to be in the preseason hype videos. But who it shows itself to be when everything's on the line, when the pressure exposes what's underneath. That moment has arrived for the Cleveland Browns. Because this isn't just about Kevin Stefanski anymore. It's not just about Shedeur Sanders. It's about whether this franchise has the spine to stop enabling a broken system that favors politics over performance and silence over leadership. If the Browns continue down this road, they won't just lose Sanders. They'll lose their credibility with every other young player watching how this unfolds. They'll lose fans who are tired of hearing the same empty promises about developing talent, while watching a gifted quarterback sit on the sidelines behind someone being carried by coaching bias. Every snap Dillon Gabriel takes without having earned it, every game plan tailored for him while Sanders gets nothing but cleanup duty, sends the message that nothing in this locker room is earned. It's picked, chosen, protected. And when that becomes the culture, the damage goes deeper than a losing record. You lose effort. You lose belief. You lose your future. Because no amount of damage control can reverse what happens when a coaching staff shows it would rather bury potential than admit it bet on the wrong guy. That's what Stefanski's done here. He's made this personal, not professional. It's no longer about who gives the Browns the best chance to win. It's about who Stefanski feels safer with, who keeps his narrative alive, who won't expose his failures if given the chance to shine. And Sanders? He threatens all of that. Because if Shedeur were to be given real reps, a real game plan, real structure, and then actually perform, it would unravel every excuse the Browns have made to this point. It would expose how much time has been wasted. And it would force accountability. That's what this franchise is afraid of. And that's why they've chosen silence. Inaction. Sabotage. But the clock is ticking. And if the Browns don't pull the trigger soon, don't bench the favoritism, don't remove Stefanski, don't finally build around a quarterback who's done nothing but stay ready in the face of all this, they're going to lose more than a player. They're going to lose their future. So tell us, do you believe Shedeur Sanders still has a chance to thrive in Cleveland, or has the damage already been done? Should the Browns cut ties with Stefanski now, or keep riding this narrative until it collapses? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like if you're fed up with wasted talent, share this if someone you know still thinks this is about football performance, and subscribe for more breakdowns as this drama continues to unravel.